What's up, guys? This is the 6-month review of Yearn Shoemaker. This is the second of 3 Chinese handmade shoemaker reviews, and following that will be a side-by-side comparison of Blazing Wonders, Yearn Shoemaker, and Acme Shoemaker. I'll post the Blazing Wonders video that I posted about like 2 weeks ago right here. Definitely recommend you checking that out if you haven't already. And Acme Shoemaker's 6-month review will be coming next week. I'll start with the same disclosure that I did in the Blazing Wonders video, and that is I did not pay for these shoes. These shoes were donated from Yearn Shoemaker as well as Arterton London, which is Yearn Shoemaker's distributor for the UK as well as all of Europe. They do not get advanced review of the video of what I'm going to say or when I'm going to say it. You guys will probably see it before they do, but definitely want to kind of get that out of the way. Let's start with Yearn Shoemaker. Yearn Shoemaker is founded by Phoenix Fu. More recently, he's partnered with 2 other individuals, Tim Lee as well as Ji Zhang. These 3 individuals combined to have a very robust history and tradition in shoemaking as well as the design of shoemaking. It's always good to really understand like the shoemaker's background. It just kind of makes the shoes a little more human when you're buying them. I'll link Arterton London as well as Yearn Shoemaker's website below. Definitely check both of those out to get a more robust history about both the retailer Arterton London and the 3 individuals behind Yearn Shoemaker. Let's get into these models that I have here. So this is a double monk strap in suede, and then I have a Balmoral boot in a combination leather of both calfskin as well as suede. This is the double monk strap, which is model MON 7213. In CF Stead suede. This has the Y07 last, which is definitely more of a chiseled last, and we'll get into sizing and fit and all that stuff in a second, but this has a full hand-welded construction, full leather outsole, as well as a full leather heel stack. This shoe starts at right around like $500 US. Now this is the BTS 227 suede and calf combination Oxford boot. I call it a Balmoral boot, but it's one and the same. This is built on the Y02 last, which is a classic round last, very well proportioned. This boot runs 412 British pounds, which is again going to be like right over $500 US. Obviously exchange rates are going to change, but that's the current pricing and exchange rate as of the time of filming this. Everything that I frame this ordering experience through and the availability through is based off of my experiences with Yearn Shoemaker through Arterton London. So these shoes had about a 4 to 6 week lead time if I'm not mistaken, and not because they were made to order, but just because they didn't have my size in stock. So these are just the stock last sizes, and that's a UK 8 in both of these. I'll talk about the fit in a second. I know I keep saying that, but I promise I will. My experiences with William from Arterton London couldn't have been any better. Extremely cordial, very timely and responsive, and the website is extremely easy and informative to navigate. And I've actually made purchases through there for accessories and other items that they sell, and it's a very nice experience. Couldn't speak more highly of William or of their business and their e-commerce. When we get into the fit here, like I said, these are both stock lasts. Let's start with the double monk, which is the chiseled last. This is a UK 8, and if we're looking at it within like my frame of reference, I'm usually between a UK 7.5 and a UK 8. It all depends on the last, as well as just the general silhouette and aesthetic of that shoemaker. If they run narrower or have a lower instep, I'm going to be sizing up to the UK 8, and if they run a little more generous in the instep and the width, I'm going to be going with the UK 7.5. After talking with William, giving him my different sizing experiences, what fits well, what doesn't fit, where I kind of have some different pressure points or hot spots, things that just bother me throughout the day, we landed on the UK 8, and it was the right choice for both of these. When I say that, I mean it's the right size, and I wouldn't have chosen a different size. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a perfect fit in every aspect. Both very comfortable. I don't have any pain points when I'm wearing the shoes, so I would definitely recommend kind of going with either your true to size, or if you're in between sizes, definitely go with your half size up when you're in between 2 sizes. Obviously, if you have any more detailed questions or want to look at kind of modifying a last, reach out to either William through Arterton London or directly to Yearn Shoemaker. A few quick notes with the sizing and just the fit or break-in. The double monk was kind of like a breeze. It fit very well, very comfortable, and it was a very easy break-in. Same thing with the Balmoral boot. The one thing that I'll kind of call out with the Balmoral boot, and maybe we can take a closer look here, is the fitting right in the vamp as well as around the ankle. Just call out that, like, while it fit very well in the length and the width, there was a tiny bit of excess volume, which you can probably see in the vamp going up into the facing. Talking about the ankle of the Balmoral boot, this fit very well, and this is one of those design elements that I think is really important when it comes to a boot. The shaft of the boot was not overly constraining or overly snug. It was a very nice kind of like structure that gave you the support in the ankle that you would expect from a boot. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully you can kind of see that as I'm wearing them here. But overall, very, very pleased with how these stock lasts fit in both the boot as well as the double monk strap. Now let's talk about materials and just the overall quality of the execution and finishing on these shoes. Both of these shoes are hand welted, hand lasted, hand-stitched outsoles, and finished. What that means is you can see as you go around the outsole of this shoe, whether it's the boot or the double monk strap, the stitching that you see around the outsole is done by hand. The stitching that's done to attach the upper to the welt is done by hand, and then the leather being pulled over the last as it's shaping the shoe, that is also done by hand. When we talk about finishing and we look at the bottom work as well as the edge work, both of these shoes is quite different, but you're going to see some commonalities between them as well. When we look at the transition in the waist as well as the finishing and the stitching along the outsole, so this does not have a blind waist like some handmade shoes will, and that's just a characteristic of this specific shoe. This is their ready-to-wear collection. When we look at the transitions from the forefoot into the waist and then the waist into the heel breast, you're going to be able to see the stitching there, but you'll also notice that there's not that like notched heel transition right at the heel breast, and that is kind of an important distinction, but we'll kind of talk more about that like price to value in a little bit here. So looking at the outsole stitching, it's very finely done. This is a 8 stitch per inch finish. When we go around and look at it in line with the fudging, overall, like it looks very nice. The width of the welt is very well proportioned to the shape and silhouette of the upper, and overall I think it's a very well proportioned last, pattern, and overall like aesthetic for this silhouette. Looking at the Balmoral boot, the finishing on both the bottom work as well as the edge is going to be a little more refined than the casual finishing on the double monk strap, but it's not to say one is better than the other. It's simply just kind of the aesthetic of that particular model and that particular shoe, and I think they're both equally executed. That speaks to the consistency that you're going to see from this shoemaker, which is definitely a good sign. Taking a quick step back so that I can kind of share some of my thoughts around where they could improve, or some of the topics of feedback that I have shared or will share. First is, let's look at the shoe trees. So these are lasted shoe trees for the round last, which is the YO2 last for the Balmoral boot. And looking at the shoe tree, it's a very solid, well-constructed, and you can see that the lines of this shoe tree match the lines of the last of the Balmoral boot very well. The one issue that I had already kind of passed along to William is just, you know, it's not actually able to flex all the way so that you can actually get the shoe tree into the Balmoral boot, and that's why I've been using them in the monk strap. And the thing is the lasted shoe tree, especially when using like a double barrel spring like this, 99% of the time, like these lasted shoe trees are all pretty proportional for the size, and then it's the toe shape and the instep height that changes. So they fit perfectly well in the YO7 chiseled toe last. So I've been using them perfectly fine in my double monk strap, but more of a call out, just like if you're going to buy a lasted shoe tree from Yearn Shoemaker for a lace-up boot, either just kind of be like mindful of that, or ask them to kind of include the shoe trees with the purchase, so that way you can be sure that those shoe trees are able to fit into the boot. As we begin to get into that price to value proposition, or what you can expect for your money with Yearn Shoemaker, we're talking about like $500 for a pair of fully hand welded, hand lasted, hand finished men's dress shoes. When we go into some of the details, there are definitely some characteristics of the pairs from Yearn that you may not see in shoes from Acme or others that we'll look at, but we're talking about, you know, double, triple, even like 4 times the price point. And that's something that you really have to just kind of like understand, like where does that fit into what's important to you. The other is the quality of the smooth leather or the calfskin. I'm not sure what tannery it comes from. I don't really have any issues with it or think that it's not a quality material. That's not it at all. It's really just kind of like the creasing, and it could just be the fit. As I noticed, you know, it's only right across the vamp, which is you know, where I had a little bit of excess volume. So that's very possible that that's it, but it just looks like it's got a bit more kind of like depth in the creases than some of the other leathers that I've kind of come to expect with a handmade shoe. That said, we are talking about a $500 handmade shoe. So it's important to kind of like measure those expectations so that you kind of are in line with what you're going to be getting, as well as what's reasonable to expect at this price point. Overall, like, I really have no issues at all with any of these shoes. Really, really happy with my experiences, both with like Yearn Shoemaker, especially with William from Arterton, London, kind of on behalf of Yearn Shoemaker. But I would highly recommend both the retailer Arterton as well as Yearn Shoemaker. For $500, it's kind of hard to argue with any of the details or the quality of those details and materials that you get. You just have to understand it's an entry-level price point. So you're not going to get a full bespoke shoe with all those bespoke details at $500. You're going to get the hallmarks of a handmade shoe, not a bespoke shoe. Really excited to wrap this series up with you know, Acme Shoemaker next week, and then a side-by-side comparison of all three, talking about the value, the overall like details that you're going to see from one versus the other, and kind of who each is right for, at least in my opinion. And really curious to hear all of your thoughts. Let me know if you have any experiences with Yearn or Arterton, or if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer those. Appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.